The Steam Deck is one of the best handheld gaming devices out there, but for casual gamers, it could also be the most frustrating. As a busy parent who never knows where the next chance to sit down with a game will come from, I decided to pick one up and see what all the fuss was about. The Steam Deck may look like a regular gaming console, but underneath the hood, it's more like a handheld PC. It runs a Linux operating system, and on top of that, Steam have built their own OS, which allows you to access the Steam store, as well as a whole host of other gaming services. That doesn't mean you can run everything out of the box. You will have to dig into Steam's desktop mode to get things like PlayStation Remote Play or Xbox Cloud Gaming set up. But if you ever just want to sit on the couch and play some games from your Steam library, or maybe tap into an emulator here and there, then the Steam Deck is a really appealing option. If you are coming from the Switch, you'll notice this is a pretty bulky handheld, mainly because of those two grips on the back of the device, but they also make the Steam Deck a lot more comfortable to use, even though it is a little bit bigger and heavier. If you watched my setup video, you'll know that I put a D-brand skin on mine to help a little bit with grip and just protect the device in general. I found it pretty difficult to apply the skin in certain areas, and maybe getting white was a mistake because I can already see some discoloration. Part of me wonders if I was a bit over the top with my hairdryer when I was trying to straighten out the edges, but I have noticed that this is a little bit more pronounced around the Steam Deck's air vents. And one thing you need to know about the Steam Deck is that it is going to run pretty hot, especially if you're playing a more demanding title. But to deal with that heat, the fans are going to run pretty loud too. So if your plan was to play this in bed, you better hope that your partner has a good pair of noise cancelling headphones. And in fact, even I had to use them most of the time when I was playing certain games like Planet of Lana to truly appreciate the brilliant soundtrack on that game. It can be a real joy to experience those gaming moments from anywhere around your house, sitting on the couch while somebody else is using the TV, or tucked up in bed, leaning into a more personal experience that I feel handheld gaming can afford you. However, it's not quite as portable as you might think. When you pack it into a protective case, it actually becomes a really sizable bulk that is too big for most backpacks, and the battery can drain incredibly quickly if you are playing a demanding title, so you will need to stay close to a power outlet or take a power brick with you in order to get the most out of it on the go. That said, one of the times that I did take the Steam Deck with me, I actually got stuck on a train for 5 hours between London and Liverpool, and I was able to go really deep into Baldur's Gate 3, and in those moments you just realise that the magic of the Steam Deck, being able to take such a wide range of systems with you on the go, is worth it for all of its rough edges. After a week or two of fiddling with the settings and getting things set up exactly how I wanted them to be, I was finally making progress with some really amazing titles that I didn't expect to have a chance to play otherwise. Maybe I was getting a bit carried away though, because at least on Baldur's Gate 3, this is when the crashes start to happen. Because unfortunately when you get about 20 hours into that particular game, the environments are going to get a bit busier, a little bit more demanding on the system, and you're going to start to experience a lot of crashes. Those crashes really can be crippling, especially when you haven't saved your game at a key moment, and sometimes launching these games can take an absolute age, so getting back into the title can be a real drag. Around the time that I started noticing these real performance issues was the time that Pokemon dropped their new DLC for Scarlet and Violet. Clearly, if I'm interested in those games, then I don't care too much about performance because they've been pretty terrible as well. But it is a game that I enjoy playing, especially because I like playing online on the ranked ladder, and so I dove into the DLC to pick up the new Pokemon that had been released. Going back to the Switch after a period of playing the Steam Deck, it really does feel like a toy, and it's definitely not as impressive as a device, but that catalogue of Nintendo classics gives it a real enduring appeal because Nintendo does focus so much on that classic catalogue of Nintendo games. The Steam Deck actually has very little crossover with it, and in fact, the only real area where they do crossover is in the indie titles that you'll find on the Steam store. So I actually found myself playing the Steam Deck one night and the Switch the next. Realised that although I had gotten really into Baldur's Gate 3, maybe I should look a bit deeper into the Steam store and find some titles that maybe are better suited to a handheld gaming experience. Just in that moment, Steam released a brand new update for the Steam Deck, and there was also one that came through for Baldur's Gate 3 that actually made it a lot more playable, and now I can fully make progress through Act 2 of the game without as many horrible crashes that I was experiencing earlier. This is another really cool thing about how Valve are approaching the Steam Deck. You get the impression that they see Steam OS as a really important aspect of their future, and so they're constantly trying to update it and listen to community feedback to include features that have been requested from the crowd. In truth, if you're looking for a completely stress-free experience, then you should probably just pick up a Nintendo Switch. If you're not as bothered about all those Nintendo style games and you want to have something that's a bit more adult, a bit more niche, then the Steam Deck is a brilliant option. For more, check out this video. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in a bit.